knitting! Did you like the music? So my name is Kara and we're going to go over all the things that you need to know to learn how to knit. So first off, we're going to start learning a slip knot, cast on, garter stitch, knit stitch, and a purl stitch, and how to bind off. After we go over how to do those few things, I'm going to go over the basic things that you have to keep in mind and should be exposed to in order to continue your knitting process. This process, I'm going to be using metal knitting needles size 2, and I am going to be using this silk bamboo yarn. What I do to measure how long I want my yarn is that I take my arm, and this is one measurement. If I see that I need more stitches to cast on, what I do is take 1 and then 2, and then I continue to do this until I find the right length for the number of stitches that I want to zip on. So for this sample, we'll just be using 1 arm length. And now, where you were holding the yarn, you take your hand, and it has this form almost of a mountain. So what you do next is cross it over so it looks like this. It's gonna look like this, and then you take the tail end of your yarn and you insert it inside here in order to create the knot. Now what you do is hold it and take your needle and insert it inside. Pull it like this, and there you go. That's your slip knot. You only do one. So now what we're gonna do is our cast on. The tail of the yarn has to face you, and then the other side of the yarn ball is facing front. And now you're gonna take your hand like this, place your hand like this. You take these 3 fingers, hold the 2. The index finger is gonna be pulling the yarn of the ball, and then your thumb is gonna be holding the yarn of the tail. And one thing that you have to be aware is that the tail of the yarn is gonna get shorter as you cast on. So don't be afraid, don't worry too much if you see that it's getting shorter. That's good. You actually want it to get shorter. That means you are casting on correctly. So what we're gonna do now, see, we have it up. I'm holding it as I explained like this. You push it back and you want to bring it here to your thumb. So you insert, bring it over, and now the yarn here, you want to bring it over.
What are you bringing over?
Inside. Don't bother.
Alright, fine.
And there you have your cast on. I'm sorry my brother came over. I'll go over that again. So you have your 2 fingers like this. You back up, dip it low, insert, and now you want to bring your needle over and pull this yarn that's by your index finger. Do you see it here? And you want to pull it inside again of your thumb. And this you want to practice very constantly because you want to be able to have ease and comfort when you're casting on. This will help with your tension and also the speed that you cast on. So make sure to practice this as much as possible. Remember, back up, dip it low, insert, drop it low here, insert again, and there you go. And don't make it too tight because when you're creating your knit stitch, it's going to be very, very hard, so you're going to have to loosen it. And you also don't want it to be too loose because if it's too loose, it's going to be too wobbly. So you want it to have just the right tension where it's not too tight and not too small. This is where the practice comes in. Now you have done your slip knot and your cast on, we're going to move on to the knit stitch and purl stitch and your binding off. I'm going to zoom in to my hands as I knit in order for you to see it much more clearly. So now, this is the first step, is slip your right hand inside the left needle. You're going to take your yarn and cover the needle with the yarn. I'm going to zoom in so you can see much more clearly. I am taking my needle and in my right hand needle and inserting it in the knot. Then I'm taking my yarn and placing it over on the top, not on the bottom, on the top of the needle, and then bringing it, and then continue this process along until you are done moving it all over. Stitch. Now we're gonna move on to the purl stitch once it's all over. See, very simple. Just strain it together, and this is how we are going to get started. Purl stitch is that you're bringing the needle from the back to the first stitch. Also be aware that you want to make sure that the purl stitch is facing you. Do not want to place the needle on the top. You want to place it in the back. The movement, this is super important, and it's just by how you're placing the needle. Now I've moved the camera over to the front so you can see it. I am inserting from the back, and then now I'm just completing off. And what we're going to do now is take our first two and bring it to the next needle. Next we take both and knit. Knit them together. And then you continue this way. This will be the process until you reach the end. So continue always, so you bring over the next one in. Now I'm just completing slipping the last two stitches over to the right hand needle. So when you reach the last loop, all you have to do is take your scissor, cut the yarn, a reasonable size, not too big, not too small. And now you just take your needle, pull it up, and there you go. It locks it in, and your binding off is complete. Do you see? It's not that difficult. This is gonna be your final result. It's not gonna look the same because of course it'll depend on which yarn and what size needle you'll be using, but in the end you want to have your knit stitch and your garter stitch. Normally the knit stitch is the front and the garter is the back, but that's all styling. That is determined by you. So now that you have learned the slip knot, the cast on, knit stitch, purl stitch, and how to bind off, you are like a pro, because now you can move on to projects and to exploring a whole ton another patterns and size needles and materials that you can knit with. These are a few. As for needles, the best thing that you can do is get yourself a knitting bag needle holder. As you can see, knitting needles come in a variety of materials. You can find them plastic, metal, rosewood, and also bamboo. Bamboo, I find that is the most popular. Where's my bamboo? I have it right here. So this is a bamboo needle, and don't be shocked, they do come smaller. I have grabbed this big one in order to show you how big they come, and if you're surprised of how big this needle is, you'll be shocked to see even bigger ones, because with knitting you can use any size and you can even use your hands to knit. Another type of needle is a cable needle. The cable needle can look like this, like a hook, or it can also look like this. So another option that you have to get knitting needles is just go to a garage sale or a thrift shop. I have this cute, beautiful knitting holder, storage. It's storage that my aunt purchased for me in a yard sale that a church was having. Apparently the nuns there love knitting a lot, and they had so many that they were just getting rid of the needles. And as you can see, it brought a whole ton, and in a variety of different sizes. Okay guys, I know how exciting it is that you've completed your first sample, and there's a whole big world of patterns for knitting, and the best thing that you can do is purchase 1 or 2 books that give you samples as well instructions to create garments, accessories, and how to fix certain errors that you come along. These 2 books I have written down in the descriptions if you want to find them. I have also attached the link to one of my favorite websites called New Stitch a Day. There are excellent tutorials for each pattern, and they're easy to read, easy to comprehend, and I am sure you won't get lost. The more you practice, the better. One other thing, another thing that you have to keep in mind is finding a place where you can place your item that you're working on. For example, I love storing my projects in this basket where I can just remember them and see the process. It might look a bit complicated, but it was just simply learning the slip knot, the cast on, knit stitch, purl stitch, and the casting off. Once you learn those, you'll be able to create these sorts of patterns. Started the arm, and this is a scarf that I've been working on. These projects had to be postponed because I ran out of material, and in my store they don't carry it anymore. Online it's sold out, and then I found it in other websites, but now I currently don't have the budget, but they will be finished. And if this happens to you, this is why it's always excellent to keep the paper of your yarn ball. This is a mistake that I made that I do not want you to do. Make sure, please, that you make your sample and you measure the gauge. And with the gauge, there is information here in the back of your label to estimate and determine how many yarn balls you'll need for your pattern. Please make sure to do that. Don't make the mistake that I made. I want you to complete it and have an outstanding, beautiful garment. Now that you've learned all of this, while you're knitting, you can always binge on Netflix or on your favorite podcast like Freakonomics. Very single-minded techniques. Yes, people do say that it's relaxing, but it's only relaxing if you have learned the pattern. Until you learn the pattern, you're gonna have bumps and you're gonna have to constantly write it down. 3 things that you need for knitting. There's your needle, your type of needle, your type of yarn, and most importantly, lots and lots of love. I'm serious, like you need a whole ton of love, because the only improvement that you'll have in knitting is your determination and love for the craft. When you're knitting, you don't just have to use natural fibers or synthetic fibers. You can also use plastic. This is an example of something that I've knitted using the garter stitch, and it looks pretty cool. So don't limit yourself with materials. The sky's the limit, and the sky is not even the limit because we're going to Mars. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it very helpful. Don't forget to comment below what you thought of the video, what you'd like to see next, and also if you want me to make a video on how to explain how to read a knitting pattern or to create your own pattern, which can be a bit confusing, just a bit. Please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and share the video with your friend. Tell them, hey, I want to learn how to knit. Let's learn how to knit together. And it's even more fun if you're doing it with somebody, so share the video. Tell them, I would love to learn how to knit with you. Please. I hope that you have a wonderful, beautiful day. Best of luck knitting, and like I said, please promise me you won't stop. And while you're liking this video, you should also click on the subscribe button to join the channel. Wait, let's do that with some music. Have fun!